Greetings everyone, Ryan Sprague here, host of Somewhere in the Skies. For over 7 years and more than 400 episodes, the Somewhere in the Skies podcast has always been free to listen to, but it's not free to create. So we offer several ways to help support our efforts and get rewards in return. If you listen to the podcast on Apple, you can click the subscribe button at the top of your Somewhere in the Skies feed to become a premium Apple subscriber. Or you can join our Patreon campaign with several tiers available. Both of these options give you the same benefits and rewards: ad-free episodes, early access to the main show, and bonus episodes and content. Help keep the lights on at the Somewhere in the Skies HQ, and help us continue to grow by becoming a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/somewhereskies, or by clicking the subscribe button at the top of your Apple feed. Thank you for your continued support, and keep looking up.
Spectre Vision Radio.
While our government's official position is not to speculate on this subject, we can choose to let our minds explore other possibilities, to use our imaginations. For if we consider that astroscientists agree on one point, that the possibility of life elsewhere is not only quite probable, some feel it is there without a doubt. Let us suppose then that these objects are real space vehicles, extraterrestrial in origin, and not an illusion of the mind.
I'm Ryan Sprague, and you are now Somewhere in the Skies.
Hey Ryan, my name is Brian, and I currently live in North Florida. So these accounts start back when I was growing up as a child in a college town in the southeastern United States. So as a kid, I sleptwalked like a lot. My dad had told me that many times he or my mom would see me walking down the hall, sleepwalking. They would get up, turn me around, and send me back to my bedroom. So one night, I was about 8 years old, I guess, and I have this distinct memory of waking up in the front yard, standing, and just looking up at something. It was just really weird. I just have this distinct memory. Then I walked, in the front gate and up into the front door, shut the front door, which was unlocked, and just went back to bed. Now, the weird part was, even weirder than that, a few nights later, one of my friends swore to me, even to this day, she swears that she saw a flying saucer over my house that night. Not really sure what to think about it now. So fast forward several years to 2016. So in 2016, I was living in Northwest Florida and was in the backyard. I was stargazing, had just let the dogs back inside for the night, and it's probably about 9:15. And like I said, I'm just kind of stargazing, looking up in the night sky. And I see this bright light about 20,000 feet up. And it was moving pretty fast, about this, maybe a little faster than a standard airplane would move. There was no sound. There were no blinking lights. It was just a solid, bright light moving, like I said, kind of fast. And it was moving from the west to east. And then suddenly, it didn't slow down. It didn't do anything other than it made a sharp perfect 90-degree turn north. It didn't slow down. And then once it turned, it just kind of hit warp speed and just zoomed out of there. There's no way any human could have survived those G-forces. At the time, I was completely mesmerized while watching it. Like, the world stood still. I mean, it probably only lasted like 5 or so minutes. And I remember looking down at my phone, making sure there was no missing time. You know, I was like, okay, 5 minutes, that's about right. But I was so excited. I remember standing there just looking up thinking, holy crap, I just saw a real UFO. That's not an airplane, couldn't be a helicopter. It had to be anything. It had to be a UFO. And I was really excited about that. And so a year later, we've moved from where we were to about 2 hours east. And we were living in the country. And one night I was taking out the trash. And as I was taking the trash out, I looked across my driveway to, there's a grassy field. And the grass usually stays around 3 feet high. It was just kind of our nature area kind of a thing. And so I looked out and I saw this huge, biggest owl I've ever seen. And it's standing in the grass. Like I said, it's standing up in the grass. And its head and large eyes were at least a foot above the top of the grass. So this owl is averaging probably about 4 feet tall. And it was then that the hair on the back of my neck started, just stood up. And I just felt this instinctive fear. Up to this point, I'd never thought of owls as being afraid. It was just, oh, cool, it's an owl. Well, this time when I saw that owl, I immediately froze, scared to death, feeling a sense of, I've got to protect my family from whatever this is. And deep down, I knew it wasn't an owl, but I didn't know what it was. And like I said, this was before I'd even heard of Mike Cleland and his encounter with his owls. So I just got a weird impression at the time that the owl, what I thought was an owl, wanted me to know that it was there. The feeling I really got from this encounter was, like I said, instant fear. And the other feeling I got was that they knew I had moved. And they wanted me to know that they were always watching. And that they knew where I was. That one was kind of scary, honestly. But then last year, I had a strange dream. I remember seeing these two tall humanoid beings, creatures. They were wearing a cloak. And they were standing at what looked like to be a monitor, like a computer monitor kind of thing. When suddenly they turned around and looked at me. I heard one of them say in my head, "He's awake." And then I thought, oh shit. And I woke up in my bed in a cold sweat, really freaked out. That's all the memory was. And to this day, at first I thought it was just a weird dream or some random remote viewing experience. I've never remote viewed anything, don't even know how to. But so to this day, I'm not fully convinced it was a dream. Definitely I think it was a remote viewing experience. I really think that for some reason I'd been taken. There was definitely a fear response when I saw them. And especially when they knew that I was awake and that they knew that I was watching them. Like I said, I think it was more of I was taken. And recently I saw on Facebook, someone was doing like an AI image of an alien, of an extraterrestrial gray entity standing, on their craft next to a computer station. And it brought a flashback back to that moment. And those same feelings of fear kicked in again. But anyway, just wanted to share those stories with you. And ever since then and now before, I'm always finding myself looking up at the skies, hoping to see another something. But Ryan, thanks so much for your podcast. Love your podcast. Love your videos, man. I appreciate all the work you're doing. And keep up the good work, buddy. I appreciate it.
Hi, Ryan, and good morning to all in the Somewhere in the Skies podcast. My name is Dan DeBow. I'm from small town Sussex, New Brunswick, also known as Cowtown to some. Never thought in the world I'd be here saying these words, making these recordings, voicing what I have to say. I want to do a quick little thing about my history as I somehow feel pertains to all that's going on in my life. Yeah, my name's Dan DeBow. I'm 53 years old. I was born here just on the outskirts of Sussex, New Brunswick. I was adopted into a family, making them their 7th child. I wasn't welcome into this family. It caused a lot of anger right from the day I was brought home from birth. My parents did attune to love me dearly, as my siblings did not. I am the outcast of the family, and always have been since the day I arrived on this planet. I've always been the black sheep, the outcast. I've always been the class clown, full of heart, passing love to everybody throughout my life. I've catered to everyone all my life. I was a paramedic for 20 years. Superseding that, I was an alcoholic for 30 years, with over 6.5 years now sobriety. In that sobriety, in my recovery, I left the world of paramedicine to start a new life, as that wasn't the best place to be in doing a complete and full recovery. In that recovery, I did a lot of shadow work, self-reflection, eventually get into the meditations and such. And here's where things, I believe, started to go a little different for me. That being in February of 2023. I must say, prior to this, I've never had paranormal visual, audio, anything in my life. Even during my years of drinking, there was never any hallucinations, visual aspects, auditory aspects to that at all. That changed in February of 2023. One morning, I awoke about 5:30. I had a brand new, somewhat puppy at the time, 1.5 years old. I got her as a puppy. She was 1.5 years at this time, pure, healthy German Shepherd. She was going to be a part of my new life. I woke this morning anyways, taking my dog out front for the morning bathroom break. I come back in, I come to my back glass patio doors, sort of to pull the curtain open, realizing it was still shadowy on the ground. Sun was coming out in the sky, light in the air, in the sky. And as I looked up, blue sky, no clouds around it. There was what appeared to be, and obvious to me what it was, no mistaking, a ship. And actually, I should say part of a ship, the tip of it sticking out from the sky, as if someone had cut a slit in the sky with a utility knife, and the tip of this ship was sticking out. And even though I seen the tip of the ship, everything about it said this thing is massive, and whatever else was behind the sky, that part that was hidden, it just seemed like it was sticking out from somewhere else. And it just felt and appeared to me that this thing was massive, and it was astonishing to me to look at. And I just, there was excitement, but yet in awe of this thing. I couldn't really turn my eyes off it. Around the tip of this thing, what appeared to be something like sparklers going off, like a sparkler, your handheld sparkler where the sparks fly off. Except these sparks around the tip were flying around it instead of just shooting off. They were maneuvering around the tip, and this would have been hundreds of them. This thing, after probably 30 seconds, a minute, started to pull back in behind the sky, as if it was pulling in behind this slit from where it came out of, and eventually went back in and was gone. There was no clouds around us at this time, not right around it anyways. The sun reflecting off the clouds that were in the sky had that orangish brown thing on the underneath of the clouds. This thing also had that reflection off the sun underneath, like an orangish brown off the underneath of it. It blew my mind with excitement. Later on that day, supper time, approximately the same type of day, same aspect to the day, I should say, in the lighting where the ground was starting to get dark, sun was going down, but it was still up in the sky. I happened to walk to the back doors just to look out and look up, obviously, and there it was again. And not quite sticking out such far as it was earlier in the morning, but it was still in the same position, and it was already starting to go back in behind. Same sparks flying around, but not as many. And that only lasted maybe 20, 30 seconds, and it pulled in and it was gone. This left me with a great deal of excitement, curiosity, bewilderment, just amazement that I had seen my first, what I believe and know is my first UFO. And I thought that was that. Approximately 3 weeks later, I play guitar. I stay up late nights just playing guitar over and over type thing. One night, approximately, say 1:30 in the morning, playing guitar, I decided to take a break. I went out back to sit on my deck, open the slide doors to go out. And I live in town, but my backyard is quite a lawn, and there's a river there, and it's dark down there. But I went out to sit on my deck, and as I walked out, and I went over just a couple steps there was a stack of 2 or 3 chairs. I went to take one off, and as I turned around, above me, I could notice a light. And as I looked up, it was sort of a lampish light, and within the fraction of a second, as my eyes expanded over everything that I was looking at, expanded out to be this massive black triangle, approximately 200 feet above my head, somewhat tilted up with its pointing up towards into the sky, and I could see 3 lamps on each corner of it. And since it was tilted back, I could see writing on the back side of it, and I shouldn't say writing, it was just symbols and engraved out of this dark black triangle. And I'm saying this triangle, I could barely see the tip of it because it was pointed up somewhat, and it was rising up into the darkness. Approximately 150 feet in length, width, I don't know, 50 to 75 feet at the back end, corner to corner. Around this thing, I appeared to be like an energy shield that almost looked like an oil slick, different colors sort of moving and fluttering, almost like loose saran wrap, reflecting everywhere. Even though it dulled the lights on the corner, it still was obvious, and I most astonishing thing I've ever seen in my life. This is when I felt I was getting altered. My life changed. I knew something else going on. I knew this was real. I went into my house and I paced. And I should say all these occurrences that I tell you, as they happened, they were peaceful at the time. It's afterwards I went in, I just paced and paced. I knew something was altering in me. It eventually went up into the darkness and was just gone. It was just such a dark night anyways. It went up and it was gone. All this I kept with me. I never told anybody. It was just one of those things automatically, like, this is yours, this is with you, you don't... Sorry, just need a second, I'm getting shaky. I haven't had a chance to talk about this too much. I've kept this with me for almost 3 years, besides my first voicing it at the Shag Harbour Expo. I'll move on here. That occurrence started changing everything. The following night, approximately 4:30 in the morning, my dog and I were on my bed, and I was pretty much awake, just laying there, and my dog started barking at my window. Of course, I couldn't see out. It was dark out. He was barking at my window, started backing up towards me. At this point, she jumps off the bed, runs under my bed, king-size bed. She ran under there and scurried up to the head of the bed, and I freaked out. I jumped up and lifted the bed, and immediately my dog went into a full seizure. And these seizures continued for the next 5 to 6 weeks, and they progressed more daily. And my only thought and heart was with her, and I didn't really I left, my mind off what I was seeing in the skies and didn't pay attention to it. And my focus was on her, and eventually after the 5 or 6 weeks, I had to let her go. And that was heartbreaking, devastating. But a few days, approximately 2 or 3 days after bringing home her ashes, approximately a month and a half to 2 months after the triangle visual in my backyard, I was up playing guitar again at night, sort of, just sad. I'd lost my dog and just a lot going on, but, okay. I went out back again. This was approximately 2 o'clock in the morning, just to go out and sit, and I sat on my back deck, and I was just sort of looking at my neighbor's trees, and they had little white lights on them, thinking I should put some of those lights on my trees. And I was looking up at my tree, I was sitting right underneath the eave of the house, which was probably 6-7 feet above me, the edge of the roof. I caught something out of the corner of my eye looking up, and before I turned, I automatically thought, there's a raccoon on the roof. And as I turned, this big round head turned and looked at me as well. And I didn't have the light on out in the back deck. I was sort of sitting there in the dark, and I couldn't see its face, but off the reflection, either the moon or something, the side of its head, it was a 3D aspect. I could see like a weird brownish gray color. And me and this thing sat there, and we stared at each other for approximately 3 to 4 seconds, where it then just pulled its way out of sight on the roof. It looked like it had been laying on its belly looking down at me, and I could only see from like its chin up, mouth. I couldn't see its face, but it was dark, just the side where I got color. And it pulled away, and I just turned back and looked and scurried in my house and paced around. And this is when this new life started of anxiety and fear, and continues to this day. My life has been altered and changed, and I don't know what to do. I'm looking for help, and I'm looking for resources to help me with all this. Anyways, I'll get back. That sighting, I kept everything to myself again, and I went on into the spring, into the summer, the spring and summer after that. I just felt off, a lot of deja vu feelings. I was living with my mom and I together. She was 100, and we were taking care of each other. And both of us were experiencing weird, same thoughts. She was seeing apparitions of her sister in the house who had passed. Lights were flickering heavy throughout that summer. But I kept it all to myself, and I kept it together. But anyways, throughout that summer, I went through that. In October, one time when I was walking down in the field, just taking some vegetable greenery down to the river to compost. This is about 7 o'clock in the evening, still daylight, but overcast, like the sky was just one color sheet of gray. I just stopped, looked up, and this triangle was going over underneath the clouds, but high enough. But it almost looked like I could see through it, as if the clouds I could see roll through it. But I could also see the outlines of the 3 lights and a big one in the middle, and it was just cruising over. And I dropped my whatever I had and ran into the house, ran out the front of the house, and there it was continuing on easterly. And 2 days after that, I was out of sorts, fear, anxiety, almost to the point of panic. I don't know why. I mean, I do and I don't. That's the last time I've actually had a visual of the triangle, but to this day and since that time, lights are going consistently around me. White orbs fly around my house at times. White lights zooming all over the place. 5, 8, 10 at a time, crisscrossing. It's orbs going, multicolored things flying. And it's every night. And I don't know what's going on. And I know I'm not crazy. I've got enough videos of the lights and stuff and whatever. And I know it's real, and I just don't know what's going on. I don't know. I have a feeling that I have a purpose. My life was a purpose. I don't understand, but with this fear and anxiety that I have, it's so deep. And with the trauma I hold from my paramedic world and childhood trauma, it's a day-to-day struggle. And through this, Ryan, I'm really hoping to find some help, resources of any type to get me out of this. It's a day-to-day, and I don't know really how long life can be bearable with this. Oh, I'm sure there's stuff I forgot. There's so many little things that's been happening inside the home, out. But I thank you very much, Ryan, for giving me the opportunity to speak my words. I want to continue to do this and learn more. I know this is my life now, and it's big, and I just need to know more, and I need to find happiness again. And yeah, but I thank you, Ryan, very much for this, and everyone in Somewhere in the Skies podcast. Keep up the good work. We're doing it together, and I just hope someone can get back to me at some point with some help. I appreciate you all, and I love you dearly. Thank you very much.
Hey, Ryan. Appreciate the time that you have to let me kind of tell you my story. It's been a little journey for me as a person. I've never denied the existence of extraterrestrials or life off Earth itself. It's always been a topic of mine with my father when he was around, and with family members when I'm around them. But it all changed when I got to see for myself something of unknown origin. It's not quite a UFO. The term UFO means you don't know what it is, what you're looking at. For me, what I've seen over my skies of my town in the Kawartha Lakes, Ontario, Canada, Ontario, that is, it was a metallic, like a surface, metallic surface, drip-shaped craft. It was very low to the sky, like in the sky and stuff like that. And I've done a little bit of research of the aerial around the area, and I would say maybe it was about 1,000 feet in the air. I don't know that in different conversions or whatever, but it was low. It was very dominant and very, how could you say, just trying to think back what I was looking at. I wasn't scared. It was mostly acquiring like why and who's flying it, maybe where it came from. I know I'll never get the answers from these questions, but it's questions that, keep arising in my mind, and by doing so brought me to different YouTube channels, different spaces on X, used to be Twitter. Then it got me into testimonies of other people, and based on how it affected me personally, it was it opened up my perspective on life. It opened up my curiosity in tech, where we are going as a species, I guess. I didn't get any community downloads or communicated like these other people. I didn't see an alien or anything like that. I didn't get to touch it because it was flying at a steady pace. I would say, I don't know, I say true north, so it's off. About true north. It was coming from the south to the north. Maybe northeast, maybe-ish. I don't know exactly. I don't know my orientation exactly. The way it was flying. It is what it is. I've seen a drip-shaped craft, man. A metallic drip-shaped craft I cannot explain. Cannot. My thoughts on it, what it could be, or maybe, it would have to be non-human in sorts. Only because I have not seen, still today, have not seen anything like it. Like, literally nothing. Like I said, I've been on X, on YouTube. People have been posting a bunch of stuff on social media, on Facebook, on all these platforms that I've put through and I follow and I watch. But nobody's talking about it. Which is odd to me. It's very odd to me. And a lot of what makes me think like it's why it's alien. It's a lot of people talk about the crafts that they see or saw, or however you want to word that. Explain it. They see seams and they see attachments, like, there's like an upper half and a bottom half, or a triangle, or a tic tac. These freaking tic tacs people are seeing, whatever. And they have seams on them. But this object did not. It was seamless. Like, it was a solid object. It was so solid. But what threw me off is there was like little protrusions, like a wing almost. It wasn't dominant. It wasn't like an airplane, or even the main wings on an airplane, or even the back end of the tail of the airplane. How they usually have a wing that pops out. It kind of reminded me of that, but the only difference is it wasn't protruding that much out of the craft. It wasn't dominant that way. It was just like a bump, and it was on the tip end of the craft, and it was flying the rounded end of the drip, or tear drip, or drop, however you want to word it, was flying in the direction it was going. Steady, no noise. I didn't see the reflection. It had a reflective surface, obviously, because it was metallic. And when the light, because I couldn't see one side of it, I couldn't see the underbelly. It was the way it was flying across the sky. I was seeing the side of it up in the sky, so you could kind of see the bottom of it, I guess. But it had when the sun hit it, because the sun was going down past the houses by my area, it reflected white. The light that the craft was reflecting was like a white. I've never seen a white light like that before. It was very dominant white light. Obviously, in my eyes, when I seen it, was the sun was reflecting off it, because it's up in the sky or whatever. It was really weird, man. It really affected me in some ways. I don't know. I've always been an open-minded person, and I've always had ideas in my life, certain ideas and how I would invent things and stuff like that. I'm not an inventor by trade. I don't design things by trade, but since the freaking object that passed by my sky and I got to see it and everything, it opened me up to a lot of things, and such as like the mummies that come out from Mexico, from Jaime Maussan, and David Grush. So how it started, how it brought to my attention was David Grush came up to a hearing. He discussed about bodies. He discussed about we have these bodies and stuff. And I was on a YouTube channel called Alien Girl or Good Morning UFO. And she had this panel going on. We all were listening on it. And I said right on her live, I said, oh my God, I had this premonition or this like daydream, I call it daydreaming, about mummies being shown, like some kind of alien body. But I said they were alive then when I was visioning it, and they were on some kind of stage. But I even said when I was talking about it is that I can't take my word for word for it. I know that something was going to be shown. And sure enough, Mexico came out with this bodies, mummified bodies, and in my vision or daydreaming I was doing, I've seen a male and a female. It was pretty distinctive. Well, once again, the mummies, let's go back, they were male and female. So I've almost foreseen this happening. Maybe not, like I said, detail by detail, which is weird. I've foreseen a lot of other things happening too, especially within our government and the way things are going with this UFO stuff, and even that with tech and with certain things. Like when I concentrate enough on it, or it comes to me, I can see it going a certain way, and I'm always at the point in my life where I need to stop thinking about these things, because these things are kind of coming true. It's almost like somebody's listening to me and making this reality for me. It's almost like the world around me is manipulating my reality to fit whatever I said or have been thinking. And so it stopped me from, even recently, stopped me really realizing, and I can't deny it anymore, because it's happening with stuff. It's affected me, this craft thing. I don't know, it's almost like I'm going off on a tangent now, but it's a commonality from what I've been hearing a lot of people think. Maybe not so much seeing things happening, but your perspective, your perception on life has changes dramatically, and it happens with a lot of people that have said that they've seen crafts and stuff, and apparently it really affects you when you touch them, and it really affects you when you get abducted or you see these alien life. Now, do I ever want to see an alien life? I think it would be cool, but do I really want that drama or negativity that comes with it? Probably not. Because I know that seeing what I've seen in the sky it's affected me in some way, right? But that's pretty much it. One thing I will say, though, is I wish I didn't see it. And I wish that people that don't believe in these things seen it in the sky or saw it. Because like I said before, kind of the beginning-ish, is that I've always believed in extraterrestrials, because it's been the talk about, like I said, with my family and stuff like that. So I didn't need that clarification, right? It was cool to see it, don't get me wrong, but if I had a choice, I would want to see it. There's no point because it just brings questions, in unanswered questions, and then you boggle your mind trying to figure it out, because you're not getting any answers, absolutely no answers from anywhere, literally nowhere, Ryan. It's kind of crazy, and it makes me a little crazy, because like I said, they're talking about tic tacs and triangles and orbs and all these things, especially in the congressional hearings and stuff like that. And I'm not an American, I'm a Canadian, and I don't hear anything from Canada. There's no dominance in Canada about that stuff, and maybe I'm just not looking. But as far as in social media and everything else, nobody's really talking about it. And it's something that I will never get an answer until probably the day I die. I will never get an answer. I guess I'd be okay with that, but I feel that we are going to get an answer, and it's just not going to be the answer that we're looking for. So I don't know. It's a journey that I'm not going to stop looking into. I will not stop thinking about it. I won't stop researching about it. And it happened in 2014. So since then, that's 11 years now. It's happened to me. I haven't stopped trying to figure it out. Yeah. All right. Talk to you later. Ciao.
I can't believe this happened to me, but also I'm so pissed with myself, which I didn't have the wherewithal to just get my phone out and just record what happened, because it's so frustrating. I wish I got it, but I was just so, I guess, entranced with what I was seeing. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and it just didn't cross my mind. But I'm going to tell you the story to the best of the detail that I can remember, and from everything which happens. But this story has a twist I never expected, because it involves a friend of mine, which you'll find out later on. But anyway, because of how vast this universe is, it's impossible for it not to be other life out there in the universe somewhere. And there must be other life out there which has technology which is so far superior to ours. So there is probably extraterrestrial beings that are looking down on us like we are the dinosaurs technologically. So when it comes to UFOs, I've been so fascinated with the whole the mechanics of how it works. I've read so much into the phenomena, and I've been so interested in it ever since I had my first experience. But anyway, with my job, I work 3 days a week at a warehouse as a cleaner. And so I'm very antisocial work. When I'm on breaks, which are 7 to 7:30, I don't like to talk to anybody. I don't like to sit with anybody else. I just like to listen to my audiobooks, eat, do my own thing. I'm not interested. I'm sitting out there this one night, and it's around 7:05. It's around 7:05. I'm sitting down, just eating my late dinner, what have you, and I'm listening to my audiobook. And as I'm listening to the audiobook, I look up just in where the tree line is, and in the tree line, it's quite cropped on the top, where I can just about see in the winter, I can see the town which I live in, which is called Newton Abbot in Devon in the UK. And so I can just about see all the lights and everything poking through. And so I'm usually seeing in that direction. So what you see in the photo next to me is what I see when I sit usually in the same place. I like to just sit out there, especially if it's a clear night, looking up at the night sky, seeing all the stars, the constellations, sort of hoping I see something, I guess. But then sometimes you see the odd pinprick of light just moving across the sky and seeing satellites and so on. It is so fascinating to watch. It's so cool, and I love to follow them as long as I can. But I'm sitting out there this one night, and I see just over the tops of the trees, this one light. It was like a spotlight. This thing was incredibly bright. But looking around at all the other stars, I began to think to myself, that's a little too bright. It's too bright and it's too low to be a star. And I can't stop staring at this thing. And I'm staring at it for a while, thinking that it's going to move. It might be a helicopter, something like that. But this thing does not move at all. It's just stationary. And I saw this thing for about a minute. I'm staring at this thing for a whole minute, and I'm just not taking my eyes off this thing because in a way I sort of want to see if anything happens, and something did happen. This thing, as I'm staring at it, it seems to be just so bright and intense, and then it just gone, just vanishes. But when I say this thing disappeared, this light disappeared, I don't mean it disappeared behind the clouds and then it disappeared. No, like a light switch, just click, off, gone. And so I'm just there looking at the same spot, not wanting to look away from the spot where I'm looking because I'm wondering if it's going to come back. My brain has suddenly stopped braining, and I'm still trying to make sense of what it is that I have just seen. But about 30 seconds after this happened, the town, which I saw, it was like one ginormous camera flash which went off. One ginormous camera flash, and it only lit up the entire town. And it was only for a second, but it was like a gigantic camera flash which took a picture of the entire town. And I am speechless. I can't believe, I still, makes me feel jittery just thinking about this. So when that happened, I didn't know what the hell to do with myself. I tried to go back to work, but I couldn't stop thinking about what I saw and what happened. The very next day, I was chatting to my friend Charlie, who I've known ever since I was 4 years old. I was chatting to him, and I said, dude, I have this crazy story to tell you. You would not believe what happened to me last night. And he was like, you know what? I think I can believe what happened. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, well, first of all, let me tell you what I saw. And so usually on late nights, he likes to go out for walks just along like the seafront and so on in Brixham, which Brixham is the old town where I used to live. He still lives there, and I live maybe approximately, probably maybe 15 miles away, I live. And so he's telling me his story. He's going for a walk just along through the town. And as he's taking a walk through the town, he told me that this giant, massive, whitish blue flash went off. And it went off all around him, lit up everywhere, lit up the town as if it was daytime for a second. And he was wondering if it was maybe thunder, expecting maybe thunder and lightning. And so, okay, there's the lightning, but there's no thunder. The thunder never came. And he said, I didn't know what the hell this thing was. And so it was after that, we were doing voice notes to each other. And I said to him, mate, I saw the exact same thing you did, but I saw it in Newton. And he was like, what, this happened to you too? And then I began to tell him the story which I have just told you guys. And we were both absolutely dumbfounded. The fact that I said to him, like, what time did this happen to you? Did this happen around between 7 and 10 past 7 at night? Did that happen? And he's going, yeah, like that's around about the same time. And I told him about what I saw. The weird coincidence that I saw something in a completely different place and he saw something there as well. I've gone online, I've tried to find any sort of like reports if people experience the same thing on the same day, and I cannot find anything. It's just stunning to me that I had somebody else experience the same thing that I did at exactly the same time, but then I had to tell him what I saw. But then all these thoughts started going around in my head. Like, is it a snapshot of where we are, a snapshot of where people are, a largely populated area? Like, what is the purpose of this? I have no idea. But there is no single doubt in my mind, this was a UFO. There is no doubt in my mind, not a shred of doubt. So it was after I saw the light go out, just like a light switch, it went out. A little while later, the big snapshot, the big flash over the town, isolated to just the town. And having the same thing happen to a friend of mine in Brixham, a little while away from me, at the same time when he's on a walk. Yeah, that's basically, that's the story. I'm still trying to make sense of it myself. I'm was trying to put together a rational explanation in my head as to what this thing could be, and I honestly, I can't think of one. I don't know what this thing was. I never saw any details. I never saw if there was a shape, nothing like that. All I saw was just this bright light, almost like it was looking right at me, and it knew I could see it. I struggle to put this into words, but it still is unbelievable to me, even though I'm trying to recall it the best I can for you guys. It still is unreal to me. And when I said I never experienced anything like this before, never experienced anything like this since, but the fact that I've experienced what I consider my second encounter with something unknown.
Hey Ryan, my name is Heather Doucette. I'm from the Shag, Harbour area. I'm an experiencer. I have a artifact deep within my pelvic region by my coccyx. It's described as an artifact in a channel of air. And also I have a scar mark at the end of my tailbone. And it's a scoop scar mark, and it's quite big. And I didn't notice this till I was in my 20s. But what I'm going to send you a clipping of my first encounters when I was young. And it all started when I was about 5. I ended up going across the road, which is near the shore. And I ended up getting lost, being 5. I was disoriented in the woods. So I sat down by a little log, by a small stream, and I felt the presence of 2 beings, of pale-skinned beings they were, and I seen the presence, and they escorted me, which at the time I thought I was being led to a camp by humans, but regression proved different later on. They escorted me to the woods, and through the woods, and to the shore. And at the shore there was a UFO perched up there by the shoreline, and it was sort of an oblong UFO, circular in motion, but not quite circular. What I remember, I'm still 5, so the memories are vague. But they led me into the UFO, and I seen lots of other kids there. There were about 10 to 15, I'd say about 10 to 15 kids, ranging from ages of around 11 or 12 to really young like myself, maybe even younger. And they were being observed the same way I was being observed. Anyway, they were playing along and doing their thing, and I was led to another room. And in that room, I encountered a small reptilian. And that reptilian was sort of strapped into a chair. It couldn't move. I didn't see the straps, but it was being held in a chair. Even though this reptilian didn't speak to me, I read his feelings through my mind. I went over to this reptilian. I started to console the reptilian, and I could tell it was sad, like it didn't want to be there. So anyway, I was being observed doing that, and I was led out of the UFO, back into the forest, back to the way out of which I had come into earlier. And they waved to me. And in the meantime, my mother and family members were out hunting for me because I had been gone all afternoon. So I could hear her hollering, Heather, wondering where I was. So time evolves on, and you don't really think of it, and you think, I must have been imagining the whole thing. But it wasn't until later in life that I got regressed. And Chris Stiles helped me with my regression. But the real truth came in 2023 when an old lady knocked on my door. She wanted to see the house she was born in, and coincidentally, I was born in the same house. I said, sure. So she come the whole way from Ontario. She had the need to come and see this house for her last trip home from Ontario. So I let her in, and she walked around, and on the coffee table I had a book I was reading, and it was a picture of an alien head on the coffee table. So she picks up the book, and she put her hands up to her mouth and gasped. I said, oh no, now I've got to explain to her my encounters, or she would probably think I was crazy. And she said, I seen them. I said, what? I said, where did you see them at? And she said, right across the road when I was growing up, down by the shore. And by gones, it was my time to shine, because that really, really made a difference in my life, confirming what I had gone through as a child also. This woman was 84 years old. So that was the best confirmation that I could have had come. So anyway, I'm going to submit this to you. It made me feel great to know that my confirmation came later in life. And I have many, many more stories to tell, because about every 10 years I have encounters. And I have an encounter I feel that's going to come up in 2027, but I believe that we're all going to know. So all I can say is what happened to me, and the confirmation came way later on in life. I no longer feel like I'm crazy. Thanks, Ryan, for listening to me.
Somewhere in the Skies is part of the Somewhere podcast universe. Please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. To learn more about all of our shows, visit thespu.com.
Spectrovision Radio.